This podcast is brought to you by the Texas Hill Country River region in Uvalde County. What's super unique about this area is that the Frio, Nueces, and Sabinal rivers are all located in the same county. It's like the hill country that you know and love, just more rural, so you're surrounded with wildlife, and life just kind of slows down out here, so you can really enjoy the simple pleasures like camping, fishing, and just enjoying the company of the people that you love.
For more information, go to visituvaldecounty.com.
And welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the In Between Podcast. I'm Jake.
And I'm Leah.
And today we have Doug Mclean from the Big Tree Ranch here in Concan, Texas. Welcome, Doug.
Howdy. Happy to be here. My business is Frio RIver Private Access, a little more of what people know us as. The ranch itself is the Big Tree Ranch, but Frio RIver Private Access is our business where we have people come to the river.
Right. And your socials are also...
Frio River.
Frio RIver Private Access, yeah.
On that's Facebook,
Instagram, and I guess that's about it at the moment. Oh, and we're also on Tripadvisor.
Oh, yeah.
Frio RIver Private Access.
5-star rating?
People have been very kind. We have had, I think it's fair to say, pretty decent reviews, and it was our first year to be eligible in 2022, and we were awarded the Certificate of Excellence for Tripadvisor as a destination to visit.
Wow.
In the Concan area.
That's no easy feat there, so that's it's saying a lot.
To be fair, Garner State Park also has the same designation, and so does Frio Bat Flight. So the three with that designation for Tripadvisor in the area: Garner, Frio Bat Flight, and our place, Frio River Private Access.
All three great recommendations.
Absolutely. Everyone who comes here should go to hopefully all three.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I want to see if you can tell the story of how you met Doug.
So I was driving to San Antonio or somewhere. I was going somewhere on 127, and I saw this man sitting in a folding chair outside of a gate with a sign that said water access or private water access or something like that. And so I turned around, I'm in my little Fiat, and I turned around, I was like, hey, can I check out your water? Can I check out your space and take some videos and post about it? And he said, sure, come on in. And you ended up giving me a full tour, not full tour because it's a big space, but you gave me a pretty good tour of the different water spots because you have a mile and a half or something of river frontage. So you showed me some of the different spots, the dam, the swimming hole, some of the little rapid spots. I don't remember if you showed me the secret staircase that time. I think that was when Jake and I came back.
Jake came. Yeah.
But it was quick too because I was on my way somewhere. But yeah, you gave me this little spot. I posted about it and kind of posted about it being like the secret gem on the Frio River that you've never heard of because it was
and
a secret
got a
gem.
ton of traffic from that. And so the funny thing is I was out there and literally had just painted a sign that said, river access. And because we're on Highway 127, just about 1 mile, outside of Concan, towards San Antonio from Concan, I was like, well, I'll sit here and wave at cars as they go by, and maybe some people stop and ask what we are, right? And because what's funny is I do actually have a business administration marketing degree, but I actually kind of like the idea of speakeasy marketing and soft openings. So what I was actually trying to do is have a few people, stop in and check out the place and see kind of what, that was literally the first week I had considered opening our gate. So we have not been open to the public except since then, which was in 2020.
Wow.
Well, so that was one of kind of how I phrased it as this hidden gem because historically you guys have been a private ranch and you weren't open to the public. And then y'all opened up that summer to the public with limitations though. And that's one of the best things about your spot is that you only allow 30 people.
Well,
maybe 40?
It's 35 now. Unless it's a private event. If it was a private event like a reunion or something, we can go, I'll allow more than that if there's, one organizer. Yay, Luna.
But you have this huge stretch of river frontage and you only allow 35 people. So you really have your own spot when you're there. And unlike all the other spots where there's hundreds of people in, a tiny little spot, you're people have space to spread out.
Right. We're very fortunate geographically. The Frio River itself flows through, from Lakey is beautiful. It comes down through Garner State Park and then continues through Concan. And we are downriver from Concan. So the virtue of that is that, the Frio River doesn't actually continue flowing all the way like to the Gulf of Mexico, unless it's in like flood stage or something, and then it would go a lot further. But normally the Frio River actually diffuses into the ground and goes down into the Edwards Aquifer. So it goes up and down. It has a river channel, but it goes below the ground on the next ranch over, the Annandale Ranch, which is actually where the Frio bat flight is. So downriver from our ranch, there is no public access. The river normally sort of just peters out, goes into the ground, and so it's not really floatable. So our ranch has the unique kind of distinction of we don't have float through traffic. So the only way to access is to either come in from the public access north of us, which is about 2 miles away, and then to go back and forth and not to be on the land because that would be trespassing, or to be a guest coming through our gate. And we only allow 35 people per day with various restrictions and things. So day use only from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And we allow people to come in. They really like to relax. We have 5 of the 13 biggest trees in Texas, bald cypress trees on our property. And people seem to have really, really enjoyed that quite a bit.
Yeah, it's an amazing place to check out. And I think it's a good way to kind of pivot into my next question, which was kind of so you're Frio River Private Access, but the ranch is actually called Big Tree Ranch. Can you talk a little bit about the history of that and how that, why it's called the Big Tree Ranch?
Absolutely. So my great uncle, my dad's mother's, my paternal grandmother's brother, Michael Stoner, founded the ranch, bought the property in 1960, and so it's been the family since 1960. A working horse ranch. He raised quarter horses. He was very well known and very accomplished in like Western pleasure and reining of horses, and so he did that for many years. And then, later in life, when I was in my high school days, I ended up going out there. My great uncle, unfortunately, had an accident, so he was paralyzed from the waist down. And I used to go out there during the summers, and I just loved it. A kid in a candy store, I could go run around, kind of wild, be free, go down the river. And then, I was big enough to be able to pick my uncle up. We'd put him in a rowboat, and he loved to go fishing. And so even when he was in a wheelchair, we could go fishing. And so we ended up being friends over and above just him being my great uncle, a generation, 2 generations different from me. And then, it passed to me a few years ago. And then I decided that, we'd open it up to limited access. So sort of like I said, like a little bit of a speakeasy kind of thing where people kind of know you guys have been amazing. And a lot of your clientele have, they ask, well, where can we go on the river? And there's certainly great places, that offer tube runs and stuff. But our property is a little more private, a little more, we do a few more rules and a few more restrictions than, I tell people the river's public, but if you come through my gate, you adhere to our rules. And so we've tried to keep it very natural, very pristine. And people are expected to maintain that. And so when they come in, we tell them, I'm not going to provide you garbage cans. Pack in, pack out your own stuff. No glass, of course, and no glass should be anywhere on the river, anywhere, because that's illegal and people can be fined for that. But especially, we stress no glass. On our property, we don't allow loud music. People can have music, but anyone from any group can ask anyone turn it down, turn it off. Nature comes first. And that's the mentality we have, is that, we're here to enjoy nature, to have some time with people, with their families, and they really like that privacy. So it's worked out very well, and we're very pleased with that.
The name came before you and took over the ranch, correct?
It did. So the ranch is notably known for its big trees, and especially the big tree. The big tree is it's rated, if anyone wants to Google Big Trees of Texas or the Texas Big Tree Registry, it's maintained by the Texas A&M Forestry Service, and they rank the trees in Texas of different species. We've had 10 trees on our ranch identified. First was this one big tree, the bald cypress tree. It's ranked number 3 in Texas. Used to be ranked as the biggest tree in Texas. There are now number 1, 2, and 3 are all in the Frio River basin. Number 1 and 2 are in Real County. We have what's ranked as number 3. Now, some of the arborists do believe that our tree is actually the biggest, but it's actually buried. So they're not able to fully measure the tree because the river's shifted and some of those banks have come up to the side of the tree. So they're not able to get down to the true base of the tree. So we think it would measure bigger, but we're not going to excavate down. It ranks number 3, but we also have the number 6, the number 8, number 9, and number 13 biggest trees in Texas on the property. And people will see 4 of those 5. The 5th one's a little farther down the river and stuff. People could hike there and walk there if they want, but the easily accessible ones are those.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So you allow hiking?
We do, yeah. So we have in that area we have 450 acres that people can go walk and hike around. We do not allow dogs, don't allow pets. So just so people know that, but you can go hiking around. And we tell people, as long as you don't cross a fence line, you're still on our property. So don't open a gate. But if the gate's open, you can go through it, and people can hike around. But during the summer, generally, people just enjoy being in the river. We are one of the only places, Garner State Park and our property are the only places you can rent stand-up paddle boards, because we have a private dam that was built in the 50s as part of the property, and it backs up a reservoir above our dam. We rent kayaks or hybrid stand-up paddleboard kayaks that people can go up and down the river and really enjoy the clear water that the Frio River is known for. And so we also have some very deep spots that, 10, 12, 14 feet deep, or very shallow areas. So people who have little babies and stuff, they want to be in, 6 inches, 1 foot of water. And we have those, what I call the areas called rocks and ripples, and it's shallow. People can park right next to the river and be right there. Or we have some deeper swimming holes that, some people and kids like as well.
Yeah. It's an amazing property. Back in, and we've talked about this before, but back in, I think it was 2019 or 2018. Was it the first year we were here when that flood, we got all the rain? Mm-hmm. First year, 2018. We had, it rained from like Labor Day all the way, 30, 40 days.
It never stopped. It just kept raining.
And the water levels really came up on the Frio River. I forget what the actual flow rate was, but it was extremely high.
I don't know the flow rate. I know the height. The normal height is about between 3 to 4 feet high at the gauge, which is in our reservoir there. It hit about 14 and a half feet at that gauge. So it was up 10 feet vertical feet at that gauge.
Wow.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Well, so we decided to go kayaking, me and a local guy, and he's 72 years old, and we decided to go kayak, and we ended up on your property because at that dam you were speaking about, he took it and just went for it and ended up nose diving and lost his kayak and lost his paddle. And so we kind of trespassed on your property a little bit.
Well, during flood stage, people do. I mean, so you can't really do that during normal times, but during flood stage, now I did the same thing. I kayaked through and I went through the Annandale Ranch and I called them and said, "Hey, do you mind?" And of course, it's anyone's right to be on the river. That's rivers are public space in Texas. So when the water's higher, it will actually go to the next road crossing. I think you said y'all ended up down there. Eventually 2690, yeah, which cuts over towards Uvalde. And I did the same thing, but I didn't do it when it was 14 feet high. I did it when it was on the downswing. It was probably, 6 or 7 feet high, and it was diminishing. But you have to hit it at the right time because it goes up quick and it comes down pretty fast.
Yeah. It was so dangerous what y'all did. I was distracted by Luna, but you didn't tell the full story, right? Like
no.
Rudy. Okay. So they're like, Rudy's 72. Jake had only kayaked once in his life on a flat lake at a summer camp.
It was actually canoed.
Okay, canoed. He canoed at a lake one time.
Middle school.
So they're like blowing and going, and all of a sudden, Rudy, 72 years old, is like a football field ahead of Jake the whole time. Like he's crazy. And Jake can see he's way back, but he can see like it kind of goes down a little bit. And he's going, Rudy, it goes down. Rudy has hard of hearing. He can't hear him. And all of a sudden, Jake just hears Rudy go, yippee-ki-yay! And he disappears. He's gone. And what we came to realize is that's your place.
That's the dam,
So
yeah.
That's the dam at your place
That's
where
a
it goes
cauldron.
down.
When it drops down, I've seen huge trees pinwheeling across that dam.
That could have been, that was so unsafe. Well, when Rudy went down, he flipped out of his kayak, lost his oar, whatever it's called, paddle. Jake did not go over the dam. He got
poured
himself
it
out
around, which is
walked around.
And everyone should do. I mean, someone who's kayaking, it's your right to port around to try and get around an obstacle.
Yeah,
and that was a good call by you.
For sure.
It was a good call.
So that's what he did, and then ended up having to save Rudy. And it is. The more that I talk about, the crazier. That was so dangerous.
There was all kinds of debris in the river
Cars,
at that time.
you know.
We have 3 flood river cars on our property that are in or near the river that have flooded downriver. There's actually one upstream on the neighboring ranch that's a Cadillac that's been there since like the 70s.
Wow.
And so it's a real deal. So truly, people, I'll look into the camera. Turn around, don't drown. Really, floodwaters don't mess with because it doesn't take much. And our dam is a low water dam. We don't have our guests drive across it, but we drive across it because it's a road to get to the other side of the river and our other side of our ranch there. But we won't go across that dam if it's over 4.5 feet. So really, it's about 1 foot of play. Like right now, I think the river's maybe at like 3.1 or 3.2 feet, and it's flowing. The river's looking good right now. It's probably not quite enough to be truly floating or tubing down, but of course we want some spring rains that'll come. And so hopefully it's going to be ideal this summer. It was a little drier than we wanted last summer, but so we'll see. Hope spring's eternal.
That was a fun time.
Oh, it's a blast.
And I've always wanted to go back and take her out because she's never kayaked before.
Yeah, maybe not after a flood, but
well, in your first video y'all did was we put you in our canoe, and of course you went up there about 2 weeks after you first stopped in, and I was stunned. I was just sitting there, and what's funny is I don't sit there and wave at cars anymore because I found very few people stop. So it was awesome you stopped. We have some signs out and on, and we've gotten to be known. There's been a few very kind articles that, like San Antonio Express News wrote an article about us and stuff. My Curly Adventures came out and did a really nice article. And so, we've gotten to be known a little bit word of mouth. And again, like My Curly Adventures came out because you said, she saw your TikTok and your things. But yeah, y'all were on the canoe. Now, I don't rent canoes. I have the paddle boards and the kayak. Because canoes, if they flip over, they're not buoyant anymore. So that's why I don't rent canoes.
Okay, I didn't know that because I'm always like, canoe the Frio. I didn't know that you don't rent them.
Well, and they're kind of less stable, and whereas a kayak is still buoyant, like it can flip over, take on water, and then you just get back on.
Yeah, the canoe is difficult to
if you roll
for one person. Yeah.
I got scared one time. My dad was in a canoe with my young daughter, and they went into some trees, and he tried to grab some, and they rolled over. And it was not good. And of course, then it just becomes it's a weighted down boat. So I'm not the biggest fan of canoes. We have one and we use it. But yeah, I'd rather be in a problem situation with a very buoyant paddleboard or a kayak or whatever.
Wow.
I need to come get some new footage of the kayaks and I need to do all the things.
So Rudy moved away, unfortunately, but he's happier now, but so good for him. But before he left the one kayak he left it to us.
So cool.
That was pretty cool.
And
so
we've never used it.
Need to take it out.
Come
there.
on up.
We never go to we've been to your place, I think once. We hung out in the river. We never ever go to the river anymore.
You need to come over.
Ever.
You guys have an open door, or open gate, I guess.
Well, and I always tell people it's one of my favorite spots because it's so private, and you're paying for that privacy, and you're paying for not having to listen to other people's music and, all those things. And so I love it. It's such a beautiful spot.
Yeah, I do want to point that out. It is, I'm higher priced than a lot of other places. People do, if you're on a budget, you absolutely have a lot of other great choices. So normally it's $35 per person every day except Saturdays. Saturdays $40 per person plus tax, and then holiday weekends is $50 per person. So it's by far not anyone's cheapest option. But if you have a special trip or a special thing you're doing, or if you want to get away from the crowds, and to be fair, there's so many times that people don't come to the Frio River that they should. They're looking for the privacy. Now during the summer, I have a really unique experience that people can't get many other places because it's so crowded. But this time of the year, please come to the Frio River, folks, whether it's my place or Garner State Park or some of the crossings. We don't have a lot of people in the area this time of the year. We love off-season folks to visit.
Yeah. Right now is actually a great time to visit. It's the last day of February. And I'm curious to know what it's like on your property, but right now you can look up on our hill and we have blooming Texas redbuds, blooming mountain laurels.
Mm-hmm.
And if you drive up and down the canyon, Frio Canyon, you see them off the roads, and there's these really big Texas redbuds and big mountain laurels. Are they blooming at your property?
The mountain laurels are actually, and there's some different color ones. My dad identified a white, one that's blooming white.
Oh, wow.
Those are a little more rare.
Yeah, very rare.
Yeah,
that's so exciting.
He just found one on the place, and then we're going to have a lot of other things blooming very soon because we're getting good sunlight right now and stuff. The trees right now, the bald cypress trees are looking dead. I mean, they're sticks and all their foliage has dropped. But that actually brings up a point that in the fall is a great time to come, after the summer when about September, October, but then I think it's normally after close to one of the first freezes, the bald cypress trees turn kind of a cinnamon red and they're beautiful. And then a big wind will come along and that will fall in the water. And our reservoir ends up having those. It's like a red carpet. And so I encourage people come in the fall at that time of the year to see the foliage change. Of course, Lost Maples is nearby. That's great to watch that foliage change. And then the foliage in the whole canyon can change. And so we do encourage people to come different times of the year. Again, we're a small community. We encourage business for the entire community. So whether you come to my place or somewhere else in the Concan area, we want people in the area because what's good for me is good for y'all and good for the area.
Yeah, it's a big ecosystem,
It
and
really
we all
is.
just help each other stay afloat. One of the things I really like about what y'all do, you and both your father are very interested in the nature aspect of things and the research, and you pass that information on to your guests. Like one of the things that we learned from y'all is, I can't remember what they're called now, but the trees, the
Indian
pointer
markers.
trees. Yeah.
Native-
Marker
Native
trees.
American
I've never
markers.
heard of that. Now we're looking for marker trees. I think we found one at Garner the other day.
Yeah.
You can Google it. They're called Comanche marker trees. The Indians the Indians were all in this area, the Native Americans, Indians. And what they would do was they would tie down a tree and it would point at some sort of landmark, whether it was like a spring or something else. And you can Google and read about it. So I'm not an expert on this. But we got interested and we looked and we nominated a couple and they ended up not being so. But we're still looking, and they can be in the area and they are interesting to try and look at and find, but to be aware that they might be. So if you see a tree that looks different and to identify them, sometimes it's a tree that looks like this and it looks like it had something pulling it down. So the Indians would tie something to that sapling and to those branches that would point them in a direction at something. So it's an interesting thing. My mom really started, she read a book on that and so we're still looking. We have not formally identified them on our ranch. We identified, nominated, but they were decided by the powers that be that they weren't. So.
Oh, wow. Well, that's unfortunate, but still a lot of knowledge came out of all this that is very fascinating. And a lot of people are interested in the culture, the Native American culture and the ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of flint in this area. Now, if people come to our place, they may, and I tell people, we do want to keep the heritage on the place. So if people do come and they find any arrowheads or like shed deer antlers, we encourage people, pick them up, bring them to us, but we do want to keep those on the property. But there are things like that in this entire canyon, wherever people go. So people, we look down at the ground all the time, after a rain or something to see if, and we see worked flint and find arrowheads at various times. And so it's exciting, And for on the tree side of things, on our ranch we have 5 bald cypress trees that are part of that biggest 13 in Texas. But we also have the state champion netleaf hackberry tree. Nobody cares about hackberry trees, but we do, right? and if people come, they'll see that. It's very obvious, but it looks like every other hackberry tree you've seen that's fairly big, but it's a netleaf hackberry, different from a sugarberry hackberry. Unless you look under the leaves and care, you wouldn't identify it that way or wouldn't know it. We also have the number 2 and number 4 biggest Texas persimmons. Those are seen by our guests. Then we also have the number 2 and number 4 biggest lacy oak or blue oaks, which are not the largest species of oak, so they're not huge. They're maybe I think about 8 or 9 feet in circumference. And those are a little bit back in our pasture, but we've identified 10 trees. And on the Texas Big Tree Registry, I think it's about 660 trees total of all species in Texas are identified and on that list. And we have 10 of those on our property.
Yeah. One year, the old executive director that was managing the local visitor center here had organized a big tree tour with Leah. And that was really great. And I wish it was still around.
A little bit of it is actually. So Leanne with Hill Country Adventures, she's still running that and they do stop by. And so it's not, so when people call her and say, so we do work with her and I think Lee Hale is still running it as well with her. And so they do stop by. So that's still, it's going on now a little bit because she contacted me and we said, yeah, it's because we trust her. And so she's got the gate code. And so she can bring groups there and they will go and talk about those trees and stuff. But it's not like that doesn't include swimming or spending the entire day. That's just a tree tour. And they go to some other places too, but they stop off at our ranch. So I encourage people like, Leanne she's got a conservation Nature Center.
Yeah.
Just east of Garner State Park.
Yeah.
And that's totally worth people going to as well. Hill Country Adventures and her Nature Center.
So that's good to know because then we could send people to there. I wasn't aware of that. Were you aware that they were doing that?
I didn't know they were still doing it, but
they had stopped for a while because, of course, we were in transition at the ranch, and I think both us being in transition, it had stopped because it was under a trustee. So they had done it for a while in combination with the Big Tree Ranch and other places. And then that stopped. And then once I started opening my gates, Leanne talked to me and we said, yeah, that's great. Do that.
I think when we did the tour, we didn't go to Big Tree Ranch. We went to Crider's and some other places. Right. But we didn't go to Big Tree. So we didn't see that tree until you came to
my place. Yeah. Crider's has the second biggest in Texas as it's ranked. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So where's the first?
It's also in Real County. I believe it's on private property. And I don't know if the Big Tree Tour goes and sees that one or not. I don't know the answer to that.
A lot of people go to Crider's. They used to issue out, it's changed ownership, but they used to issue out a pass.
Yeah, I don't know what they do these days.
But yeah, they don't do that. I don't think they do that anymore, which is a bummer because it's neat. But if you do the tour with Leanne Sharp at Hill Country Adventures, then I'm sure they have some kind of arrangement with landowners.
I think they do, yeah. And just like they have an arrangement with us, I think they have an arrangement with some other folks. And again, because they're Sherping that group around, we trust her and trust them to do that, which is great.
Fun fact, Leanne's son, Bane, does the bat flight tour.
He does. So if you go see Bat Flight, you'll see Leanne's son. Exactly. That's on the next ranch over from us. So people can and do spend the day with us. And then right about when we're closing 7:00, then they drive over there. And it depends on the time of the year. So you need to call and make a reservation at Frio Bat Flight. but normally they'll open their gate at either 7 or 7:30, kind of depending on when the bats are flying and all. And it goes through sunsets. And it's right next door to us. So you can be there from my gate to theirs in about less than 5 minutes.
Do the bats come to your place? Like if
we see bats around, we don't see the big clouds of bats coming over our place, but like when we're at our dam at night in the evening, we'll see some bats circling around stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually come from that cave or if we have some little, we haven't identified a big bat cave on our property, but bats can live in hollow trees and other stuff. And so we do have some bats around, but not the same volume. I mean, that's the second biggest colony, I think, on the planet.
Yeah.
It's
I think the other one's in New Mexico.
And what happens a lot of times?
Bracken Cave is the biggest.
Oh, really?
By population, don't completely quote me on this. I think Bracken is like 20 million. Frio Batfly is, I think, 12 million.
Yeah,
something like
10
that.
to 13,
Something
I think
like
is
that,
range.
So,
but when you're at this one, you're up on top of a hill.
It's awesome.
Overlooking I mean, there's nothing
the sunset,
like it.
It's totally worth it.
And people will say, oh yeah, bats. Like I've seen the ones at Austin. And I'm like, it's totally
It's a
different.
very
That's
different
an incredible experience, but this is a different experience and it's not the same. It's such a different experience.
It's not the same. So my other house is in the Round Rock, Austin area. And so I've been and seen the bats at Congress Avenue Bridge is great. But there's also a big bat colony at McNeil Road and I-35. So you can be driving on I-35 and there's like a million bats under that bridge and you'll see them coming out right at dusk, right at the railroad tracks and McNeil Road and I-35. But it's not the same. When you're out in the country here, Frio Batfly is totally worth it. And I hadn't done it in years. I did it this past season and I was just blown away. I really was.
It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just don't open your mouth when you look up.
No.
I think that's about $12 a person, maybe different. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I think it's about that.
I think they have
You should make a reservation.
Yeah, prices are on their website.
And the other thing is when they say be there at 7:30, don't be late because they open the gate, everyone comes in, then they shut the gate behind it, and then they drive away from the gate. So do not be 5 minutes late to that.
Yeah, and the reason behind that is because they have to drive through the ranch. It's like 2 miles or 3 miles to get to the cave. It's a big ranch.
Which was also part of what makes it a unique experience is that you're driving through this incredibly beautiful historical ranch to get up to where the cave is at on top of a hill. So it's part of the adventure.
Well, and that is a notable ranch around here, the Annandale Ranch. There are neighbors and Bill Kopfer's, one of the family members there and he runs it. And it's, I want to say 14 or 15,000 acres. It's one of the biggest, if people live in San Antonio, they may know there's the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. And what they do is they put land in conservation easement. They pay the landowners to not develop the land. And that's what they've done there. And that's in conservation easement. So it's not going to change. It's going to stay pristine. No, it's my goal on our property to stay pristine. We're not part of that conservation easement because I don't want at the moment to do that and to encumber the land because it's a lifetime commitment. But nevertheless, it's great. And so the Annandale Ranch is, I think, the biggest ranch that's under that kind of easement by that Edwards Aquifer Protection Program, which is helping to guarantee the water quality of both the rivers, the Frio River around here and the Edwards Aquifer, because the Frio River really feeds the Edwards Aquifer quite a bit. And so that's ensuring clean water for the folks in San Antonio.
Yeah. All this area is a recharge zone or contributing zone. The further north you go up from us, like into Real County.
Do you know the story about, because I feel like I've heard it told differently, that way back in the day, somebody putting dynamite in the river?
I don't know that story. I know the old joke about dynamiting in the river, but
it's not a real story. Somebody said it was.
That's a different. He's saying he knows the joke, but there is a story about it.
I thought,
but we won't talk about it
because we don't know.
I don't know about that
specifics. What was it like there on the ranch growing up when you were a kid and in the area? What was it like?
It was neat. And of course, my dad actually grew up in this area too. So the family has had another ranch that's been, family land on the Nueces River, which is a partner river in the area. That's also under the Visit Uvalde County, and we encourage people come and experience the different rivers here. Nueces River is very nice. So is the Frio River, and
the
then
Sabinal.
Utopia Sabinal Rivers is nice. So the family ranch over there has been the family for over like 130 or 40 years, since was it 1889, I think. And so my dad's family grew up out there, and then I've been coming here. I mean, I shot my first deer on the Big Tree Ranch, and just came out, and it's kind of always been the sleepy little town or little tourist destination. Although we've come here year round. Whereas, and now for me it was Thanksgivings, come out and go deer hunting, and enjoy coming deer hunting. I never really appreciated as much. When you get older, you realize, now everyone has a big ranch to go deer hunting. My great uncle Mike was just amazing, and we always felt incredibly welcomed. And he was like, "Yeah, go hunt. Go do what you want to do." And just the ranch was like a big playground for me when I was growing up, and I love that ranch. It's my touchstone, and he knew that, and he ended up. It's a long story, but he ended up passing it to me out of respect, hopefully for me a little bit, but also as respect for my grandmother, his sister, and for my dad, who he had great love and respect for. But he passed it to me sort of, but in that line or in honor of them as well. So
yeah, this is a great year-round destination, and I know a lot of people don't see it that way. And I never used to either myself. It was just go to Garner in the summer, and then that was that. It was but if you actually become outside of the summer, you'll find cheap lodging options. The weather's cooler, so it's more ideal for hiking.
Exactly.
And it's just a whole different feel.
It's a different vibe. And what a lot of people don't realize, and even if they come during the summer, a lot of times then they're in their house and all. I'm like, go outside, look up. We have some incredibly dark skies, beautiful. I mean, you can see with the naked eye the Milky Way here. We can look up and see and track satellites. So you can just see them going across the sky.
Yeah.
So, whether it's, middle of summer or not, you can see that. We also have, Concan's known for birding, and lots of different species around here. We haven't identified any on our ranch, but I know the area has black-capped virioles, golden cheek warblers, and a lot of other birds that transit through this area. So it's gotten to be known, and that's, depends on the time of the year, what birds you're kind of aiming at, a lot more in the spring generally. But birders have gotten to know the area. And of course, we've had groups of photographers come through to both see the foliage as well as the wildlife and the dark skies. I know you've hosted Steve Irwin and his groups and other groups for photography. And of course, we're looking forward to the eclipse, the two eclipses that are coming up in the future for some of those same reasons.
For sure. A lot of bird species here. Finches and titmouses and robins and cardinals and hummingbirds of all kinds. But it's not.
And painted buntings.
Painted
are
buntings.
incredible.
I lost my mind the first time I
Bluebirds.
saw a painted bunting.
Yeah.
We were at Neil's for a meeting, and there was one right outside of the window at a bird feeder at Neil's restaurant. And I lost my mind because it's beautiful.
They're beautiful. If you haven't ever seen them, Google that. Painted bunting. And of course, we have lots of other things that are pretty common birds here, like the ladderback woodpeckers. And a lot of people have never seen a woodpecker in action. You can see them here.
You can hear them before you see them.
Yeah, and then there's the kingfishers.
Yes.
And
Which
there's
I've
two or
only
three
seen
different breeds of kingfisher.
Yeah, I've only seen those while kayaking.
Yeah.
So
When you hear them, it sounds kind of like a machine gun. It's like, when you'll hear them quite often before you see them.
I forget about those because I've only ever seen them kayaking.
We see them on the river, right? We don't get them over here.
And I can't say we verified this, but was 2 years ago. We think we saw, there was two different groups, two different times. I was with other people and we all agreed. We thought we saw a bald eagle right along the river there. Now, we didn't get pictures of it and we didn't get additional sightings of it, but we may have some transient eagles that come through.
I feel like I remember someone else talking about seeing a bald eagle. Maybe Brian, and when they were kayaking, I swear.
Oh, you'll also see, I think, is it gray or blue herons?
We have, great blue herons.
Okay,
We
great
see
blue
those commonly. Yeah. So we'll see great blue herons. Of course, we have ducks and geese, during the fall that come through.
One thing that I found interesting, one day I was driving to Utopia and I saw this guy pulled over on the side of the road, and he had a little pack with him, and he was walking the side of the access roads. And I went to Utopia, and then I just was thinking about him. And I decided that when I drove back, I was going to stop and talk to him. So on the way back, I stopped, pulled over, and started talking to him. He was from Pennsylvania, and he came to this area specifically to catch or view a specific butterfly.
We do have great butterfly migrations through here too.
So that was pretty interesting. I heard people come here for the bats and the birds and the bees, but never butterflies.
I've heard some butterflies too. I don't know which species. I know we have I do know there's one, the monarchs come through here, but also there's a snout nose something. That's a snout nose butterfly of some kind. And that's when we see tons of them. Unfortunately, when you're driving, you hit thousands of them.
There's a really crazy butterfly that looks like a hummingbird, right?
That's a moth.
Oh, moth. Yeah, that's wicked. When I saw him, I was like, what is that?
Well, and there's a lot of different animals that people don't realize we have in the area. So, of course, the area has white-tailed deers, well known for that. Unfortunately, a lot of wild pigs. There are javelinas in the area, although you don't see them very often.
Yeah, I actually saw
uncommon.
Some the other day. First time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then there are some bobcats. There can be a very rare sighting of mountain lions in the area. Axis deer have become common around here. They're originally from India, and they've gotten away off some of the exotic game ranches. So we have breeding populations of axis deer. And if people haven't seen those, they're kind of spotted and they can be bigger. They're a relative of the elk, somehow related to the elk, but they're really neat to see, and it's amazing meat. And then we have some Aoudad sheep that roam around on the hillsides. If you look up at the hills and you see some sort of brown spots up there, normally about 2/3 of the way up some of our big hills or mountains, not like the Rocky Mountains around here, but we have some tall peaks and things. And the Aoudads will typically be up on those ridges.
They used to cross through here, back of our property. And I'm convinced they still do because there's trails up on the property. But
we saw one across the road one time, a little one, remember?
Yeah, I think you did. We were outside. I was like, what? I missed it.
Well, and we have a lot of fish and fish species in the Frio River. There's bass, there's catfish, there's of course different perch and things. I do want to mention, if people come to our place, we don't allow fishing. I know the river is public, but if you come through my gate, you adhere to our rules. And so we don't allow fishing because we don't want extra hooks in the water for the kids or monofilament line and all that. So we don't allow fishing. So we're not a fishing destination if you come to visit for the day and you come through my gate.
But you can fish at Garner.
You can fish at Garner.
And other low water crossings.
And other places, yeah, absolutely.
There's plenty of river to fish at.
Absolutely.
Well, is there anything else you want to ask? Yeah.
For me, I just want to thank y'all for your friendship, and y'all have been amazing partners. The In-Between is truly a unique place, and it's neat to have y'all and your footprint and fingerprints on the tourist business here in the Concan and Frio River Canyon. And it's been great. And I appreciate y'all's friendship and what y'all have to offer, which I think is very unique and very different. And your art background and your touches on everything are just incredible. So I think y'all have really enriched the area quite a bit by what y'all do.
Well, and we love, love, love living here. And one of my favorite things is to share all of these businesses and things to do with other people. Because I think so many people that come out here, they have their routine that they've done for 30 years. They go eat at Neil's, they go to Garner, maybe they go to the Dry 50, but they have, their routine. And there's so many really unique things out here to offer, owned by really cool people. And so I love to share the businesses and the hidden gems and the things that I love. And a lot of it is just, I love to do that. And then also selfishly, like with the restaurants, I just want them to get business to stay open because I love to eat there. So, we've loved sharing your spot with people.
And along those lines, one thing we haven't talked about is, I think this is a great destination year round, like we have said. It would be nice, and we have a lot of RV spots, a lot of underused RV spots because they get used during the summer. This would be a great place for more snowbirds to come, more people to spend 2-3 months in their RVs in the area to get away from some of the extreme cold of the north. And we would love the increase in population in the area because then some of the restaurants would stay open more often. Additionally, sort of as a preview of things to come, my parents were fortunate enough to buy the 1,200 acres across the road from the 450 acres, and it used to be part of the ranch that my Uncle Mike owned. It had been sold off in 99, and we were able to reacquire it. So we don't know exactly what we're going to do with that, but that in years to come may become open to light camping or light visitation or hiking or driving. So stay tuned on that. But that's not a fully baked concept yet.
Maybe the next time we have you on the podcast, you can update us on that if there is any updates.
So we'll see. And I do want to remind people we have the annular eclipse for this entire area, October 14th of this year, 2023. And if you don't know what an annular eclipse is, that's when the moon will move in front of the sun, but you'll still be able to see the sun. So you need the glasses, but it'll be kind of a ring of fire eclipse. And then the big full solar, and we're in the path of totality for that and for the one that's April 8th of next year, as y'all well know, 2024. And we're at the crossroads. So you could come October 14th as a preview of when you return April 8th of next year for the full solar eclipse, where it will get dark. And we're in the path of totality, and we have within 3 or 4 seconds of the absolute most time in the path of totality.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible.
It'll be awesome. Make your reservations early for that. And we don't exactly know what we'll be doing for that. We have to develop that, but stay tuned.
Yes, thank you. I guess we also have the Uvalde County Solar Eclipse website, and I'm sure if you come out with some new developments regarding to eclipse, we can put that information on the website.
Sounds great.
So thank you again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This was awesome. We've been meaning to do this for months now, and then just timing holidays.
Oh, and if people want to call me to reserve, people call my phone number and you talk to me. It's my cell phone is 512-554-4174. Again, 512-554-4174. I'm Doug, and I'm the owner, and I'm the one who normally brings you in. Sometimes my dad, or sometimes our friend Rodney, but it's a family-run business, and we love having people come and visit and share that with them.
No, thank you. And also Facebook, which we did talk about in the beginning, but you prefer phone calls?
Yeah. Call me because I don't have online reservations or anything. So if you need a reservation, I book about 1 month in advance, unless it's a private event or reunion or something. I'll do that, or wedding. We can do that 2 or 3 months or 5 months, 6 months in advance. But if it's for day use, call me 30 days in advance. So if you want to come July 15th, call me June 15th and that type of thing. So.
Well, awesome. Well, all right, folks. Thank you, Doug, and we'll hope to have you again.
Look forward to it
sometime in the future. And thank y'all for tuning in, listening to us, or watching us on YouTube. We appreciate all the support. And if you can, just hit the like, subscribe button on YouTube, or rate us on any of the podcast platforms that you're listening to this podcast on. It would help us out a lot, so we appreciate it, and we appreciate y'all. So until next time, hasta luego.
Bye.
Thank y'all.